Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Jeremy B. Hill Show. All right, my friends, welcome to another episode of the Jeremy B. Hill Show. Today, I've got a good friend of mine, Zach Haptonstall. Are you ready for this? Co-founder and CEO of Rise 48 Equity, member of the Forbes Real Estate Council, best-selling author, former college football player, sports anchor, and now podcast guest on one of the best podcast shows in the country. Welcome to the show, my friend.
This is my biggest accomplishment, right? This will be the lead for my bio going forward, Jeremy.
I think so.
Thank you for having me here. Yeah,
I think so. You've heard it here. That's all we need to be said. Thanks for coming. That's
Rewrite the bio. Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah, no, really excited to be here, though. Thanks for having me, Jeremy. I've been on a number of podcasts. This is actually the second one in studio, so this is a nice setup, and really excited for this. So
Thanks,
thank
buddy.
you.
Me too. We have been talking and getting acquainted and spending some time together over the last little bit. And I'm certainly very excited about you and your business and what it is that you're doing, and really looking forward to the conversation today.
Yeah, no, me too.
So quickly, give us 30 seconds. What is Rise 48 Equity?
Yeah, so Rise 40 Equity. So basically, we are a private equity real estate investment firm. Okay, so we'll raise money from investors. We go out and buy existing large apartment buildings, and then we'll go in there, renovate the units, improve the community to increase the value, and then sell them to get a profit for our investors. So we're effectively an investment company that only focuses on apartment buildings.
Perfect. And you guys started the business end of 18, first of 19, so about 5.5 years or so now?
Yep. Just about 6 years now. Yeah.
About 6 years.
Time flies, yeah.
And so, correct me here, so in 6 years, you guys have purchased 58 assets, 2.4 billion in transactions, more than 10,000 doors. You got 4 offices across the country and 250-ish or more employees. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, it feels like it's been like 15 years, but it's kind of crazy. It's been about 6 years. So we've been fortunate to kind of catch momentum and keep it rolling.
That's unbelievable. Like, most people wouldn't accomplish something like that over 20 or 25 years. To do that in 5 or 6 years, it seems like you have the world by the tail. You're doing something right.
No, thank you. Yeah, we've been fortunate, and just kind of staying laser focused and try to just be the best at, that one thing has really helped.
Good for you. So as of today, we're recording this in Scottsdale, Arizona. Now, you're a Arizonian or something. You're born and raised Phoenix, Scottsdale area?
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, born and raised in Phoenix. Yep.
So did you grow up in kind of a entrepreneurship or real estate or finance type family, or how did this bug for building big businesses come together?
No, good question. Yeah. So I actually did not. I have no real estate connections, really no entrepreneurial background or finance background. I grew up, so I just grew up in like a lower middle class family. My dad worked in construction. He was doing exterior painting for houses and drywall.
Really?
My mom was like an HR associate at an accounting firm. So nothing, too glamorous. And I think like most people, Jeremy, I was taught, you go to school, get good grades so that you can get a degree, get a good job, and save for retirement. That's literally what I thought.
What a bunch of bullshit that is.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's not it, right?
I know. I started realizing that later. Yeah. So I was always a good student. Played sports growing up. I played high school football. I had a Division II football scholarship, so played college football for a little bit.
Congrats.
I had a 4.0 GPA in school, so I was really like disciplined and focused on that. And I wanted to be a football player initially, Jeremy, but I realized I was not big enough or strong enough to be in the NFL. So I was like, I better figure out
those two things.
I know, right? Yeah, those two things.
Not big enough or strong
I know,
enough.
I know, unfortunately. So I needed a plan B, and my next plan was, okay, I really like sports, and I like journalism and broadcasting and things like that. I want to be a sports journalist. So I went and got a bachelor's degree in sports journalism, and I was actually a live news anchor, sports reporter for Arizona PBS for a short time. I hosted a show on Fox Sports Network, which was cool at first, kind of being on live TV.
And how old were you when you were doing this?
I was 21.
Dude, dream job.
Yeah. So, and I realized very quickly, it was cool at first, and then I realized very quickly, you can't make any money in journalism, right? And again, I was literally taking out student loans and working 40 hours a week, nights and weekends, to pay for school. Like, I did not get a penny from my family. They just didn't have money to pay for that. So I was kind of learning, like, I am accruing all this debt. I remember I read the Dave Ramsey book when I was 18, like my freshman year of college. So I was trying to like realize, okay, I'm accruing all this debt, and I can't really make a lot of money doing this journalism thing, and it's not as fun as I thought. You know what I mean? And so I was really focused on, after I got the degree, I was just like, I need to kill the debt. And so that's kind of where I was at that point.
So really more of I'm doing something it is that I love, but I don't see a future because ultimately I'm going to want to build something beyond me. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to have a little bit bigger life. And it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
Not being broke, but not really seeing a path it is to
100%. Yeah. And I remember, Jeremy, that, like I was young enough to where I didn't, know it full fledged, but like, I remember going through like the great financial crisis with my parents, and they were really struggling. And so you kind of just started getting ingrained that like, oh, life is hard, it's hard to come by money. But when I started, getting into my early 20s, I realized, you know what? I kind of had that conflict that I think a lot of people have when they're graduating college, is that you get a degree in something and you realize I don't really want to do that. Yeah. You feel like you're required to, but I said, you know what, screw that. I just need to focus on killing my student debt. I need to buy a car. I want to become financially established. And so I just need to make money. And so I was working full-time in college, delivering medical equipment nights and weekends, just an odd job I had at the time. And through a relationship, I was able to parlay that into like a healthcare marketing job. Okay. So I was making like $35,000 right out of college, doing this healthcare marketing. And
which was more than you were making as a broadcaster?
Yeah.
Okay, so not as cool, not as much cachet, but at least you're getting paid.
But very quickly I realized, hey, if I go into hospice marketing, which is what I started doing, I can start making more money. So I know it sounds kind of weird, but hospice, for those people who aren't familiar, it's basically, it's a service provided by Medicare, and basically people pay into this service their entire life. And it's for people who have terminal illnesses, so to provide mobile nursing, caregiving, et cetera. So my job would be to wake up in the morning, drive all around Phoenix, and just cold call, walk into like hospitals, doctors' offices, assisted livings, and build relationships with physicians, social workers, nurses. And when they have somebody who needs hospice, they call me. I'm the first person to meet with the family, educate them, get them signed up. So it sounds weird, but hospice is an extremely competitive and lucrative private business industry. So these are all private companies that are federally regulated and reimbursed by Medicare. Phoenix is the number 1 hospice market in the entire country because there's so many retirees, geriatrics here. Florida is second, just like you would think, right? So all of a sudden, Jeremy, by the time I'm 23, I'm making $150K a year, more money than both my parents combined had ever made. I bought a house when I was 23. I started going to business school. I got at night paid for my MBA cash. So by the time I'm 24, I got my MBA. I'm making $200K plus a year. Now I'm a director of marketing, managing a team. So I was fortunate to kill all my debt. I was financially established, had no debt besides my house, my mortgage on my house. By the time I'm 25, 26, I just feel completely unhappy, because I felt like I had golden handcuffs, but I was not, this is not what I wanted to do, was be a hospice marketer. You know what I mean? I was just trying to get, that establishment out of school so I can get
your feet under you.
Yeah. And so I was really unhappy, but I felt like, what else am I going to do? I should be fortunate. I should feel happy because I'm making more than all the people I know that I went to high school with, et cetera. But I knew I wanted more. And so I think I was like 26. The end of 2017, the hospice company that I was, had helped to really build, they were going to sell. And I didn't want to be a part of that new ownership group. And so I said, screw this, I'm out, right? And I had earned a little bit of sweat equity in that company over the 4 or 5 years. So I cashed that out, and I had been relentlessly saving money during that entire time, following the Dave Ramsey plan. So January 2018, I quit the job, sell my equity, and I have no plan at all. I did not even know about multifamily, by the way. My goal was just somehow, I'm going to live off my savings and figure out how do I create financial freedom, quote unquote, or passive income through real estate. And I did not know anybody. Okay. So this was more of me like thinking, I'm going to go flip houses. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
I was
Because I saw that on TV.
Exactly. Yeah, sure. Exactly. And I started listening. So I was going to flip houses, and I created a little LLC, and I thought I was official. And I started doing the math, and I was like, wait a second. This is basically what I was just doing. It's very transactional. Right. It's like, so I have to keep flipping it, and I need to create something where I don't have to trade my time. So, I started listening to podcasts, reading books, just trying to consume as much of this information as I could. I cold called over 90 mobile home park owners in Mesa and Apache Junction, the East Valley here, trying to buy one. Because I had almost $300K of cash that I had relentlessly saved, and had kind of got from that little pop of equity. And I was like, okay, this is going to be like my missile that I'm going to launch and do something big.
Zach Inc., baby.
That's right, yeah.
There we go.
And this was like 5-6 years of just relentless grinding, pounding the pavement to save that money. And so I was like, I need to make this last. And when I realized that, okay, if I go try to buy a property, $300K is nothing. I felt like I was rich when I quit the job. I had all this cash. But when you don't have a job, it goes quick.
And now you've got no income.
No income. I've got a mortgage, and I was a single guy at the time, but it goes quickly, right? So anyways, I started learning about this concept of syndication and the whole idea that I can leverage my time and energy in exchange for other people's money. And it's a win-win situation, right? So I can scale something instead of just kind of hitting a ceiling as I run out of my own personal money. And
Right.
that's
So
when I decided that's what I want to
syndication
do.
is we're going to go take this deal down, and you're going to put in some money, and I'm going to put in some money, and Joe's going to put in some money, and collectively, the whole of us are going to go buy something a little bit bigger that maybe we couldn't do on our own.
Exactly. Where I'm the general partner, so I'm the active person that needs to go out and do all the work, like find the deal, manage it, and earn sweat equity, so I can create compensation that for cash I don't have today, later on, in exchange for people who are very busy and want to invest their cash. Because I was at the point where I was in healthcare and I honestly hated my life. I was very unhappy, very miserable, because I felt like I was at a dead end, and I was very ambitious. And I was like, well, I know a bunch of unhappy, miserable physicians, but they're stuck. They have families. And so I could help them, right? I could be the guy that goes out and spends my time and energy to help grow their money. So that was the whole idea. So anyways, that was like 3 to 4
So you have a
months.
captive audience. I'm pitching you hospice. Oh, by the way, hey, can I grab you for 5 minutes? I got this little side hustle I'm working on.
Exactly.
I got it. Good man.
Exactly. That's right. So that's when I focused on, okay, I need to focus on, I was looking at all types of different real estate investment classes. I was like, multifamily seems like something I can scale and it can be big. And it's sexy. People like apartment buildings more than mobile home parks or stuff like that, right? People can just understand it. So anyways, month after month goes by, Jeremy, and I am just burning through cash. And I honestly lost, like, I went from being the man, like, there are hundreds, literally over 100 different hospice companies and probably over 1,000 marketers in Phoenix. I was like the dominant force in the market, and people knew it. I went from being the man, waking up every morning, knowing what I need to do, making $200K a year, to like waking up in the morning and like, what the hell do I do today? Like, how do I move the needle on this? Because I didn't know anybody. I did not have a mentor. I'm literally just going online. Yeah. And it was really tough.
Let's pull that real quick. So it's so funny you say that. Have you read Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey? No. So I'm going to send it to you after we're done here. Like, just outrageous.
Yeah, I'll check that
super,
out.
super good. One of the things it is that he talks about is that when he decided it is to get out of, I'm going to stop doing rom-coms. I just don't want to do that anymore, because he's the rom-com guy. Every girl in America is in love with him, you know, including probably everybody's wife or girlfriend that's listening to this.
Right.
Not ours, though.
Yeah, no, not us,
I mean,
but
when you got
everybody
this,
else, the
like,
audience,
come on.
though, yeah.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
And said, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to get into dramas. Left Hollywood, moves to Texas. Didn't get a single phone call, didn't get a single script for 2 years. And he goes, I've gone from being the it guy to making a commitment of something it is that I wanted to do, but there was that valley of death it is for 2 years, to where you start having an identity crisis going, shit, did I make a mistake?
Yeah.
Is it too late to go back? What should I do now? God, am I cut out
That's
for this?
exactly what I was experiencing.
So how do you, and I want to finish the story, but when you're going through that, how do you keep your mind right to keep the courage of your convictions when you're having that, oh shit, what did I do kind of day?
No, it's a great question.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. I basically lost my self-concept, because I was like, who am I? Like, I started dating my now wife, Grace, that year, right? And so we were not married at that time, but I started dating her, and we'd go to, like, you know, her family holiday party or something, and people ask, oh, what do you do? I say, oh, I'm a real estate investor. Oh, what do you own? Well, I don't actually own any real estate. I just sit at home all day.
Investor. I'm just not really good
at it. I sit
at
at home all day and make no money.
I got it.
Yeah, you feel like a loser. Like I was embarrassed.
Give me your daughter.
Exactly.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, exactly. I felt like a total loser, because it's like, and there's no structure to your day. You don't have a boss telling you what to do. You don't have a tangible meter for success. And so to answer your question, I was raised Christian, but not really, like, didn't really grow up in the church, right? Okay. My wife, Grace, is like very Christian, and it was actually, I grew closer to God in my faith through that time. Wonderful. And it's funny, it's like a typical human flaw. It's like when we need God is when we go to him.
Sure.
Right? And I've been guilty of that too.
Of course.
But that's when I realized, going on the entrepreneurial path, where you are literally broke, running out of money, and people keep telling you can't do it, and you have that own self-doubt, you have to turn to your faith. And there's a lot of other stuff that you do that we can go into later on. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I had to really dig deep for that. And my whole philosophy, Jeremy, because it got to the point where I was pretty much out of money, and we'll get to that, but my philosophy internally was that I was like, you know what? I don't want to compromise long-term upside for short-term pain. Yeah. So I got to the point where I was like, you know, if these are my expenses, I just have to barely stay above water. I got to survive and just outlast, and something will pop, and I believe it will. And so
that it comes down to two, just ultimately, if you don't believe in you, then who else is going to?
Exactly. And that's what I realized, because as I started going to like meetups, conferences, I tell people, I'm going to buy 1,000 units the next 12 months. So like, you're gonna fail.
You're like, yeah, have you met this kid?
There was one guy I met. I met him at a meetup, and he like owned a bunch of mobile home parks, and I was looking forward to meeting with him. He's like, hey, I want to meet with you, and I tell him my ambitions and what I did, and he literally said, you should not have quit your job. Like, that was not smart. You left all that money. You should have just stayed both. And I went home like so distraught. Yeah. And I started to realize, like, why would I listen to anybody else when they give me their advice? Because they're not going to put the work in that I have to do to achieve my goals. Right. You know what I mean? So you start to realize, you get a chip on your shoulder, and you start to realize, I cannot be listening to these people unless they are for my goals. Yeah. Because most of the world will tell you can't do it. And it's because they literally don't think you can. They're jealous of your ambitions. You're threatening them, whatever. So anyways.
Well, because if you can, then it shines a light on them. Correct. It shines a light on what they're not doing.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. It's just human nature, right? Sure. And we all can feel that way. So anyways, long story short, 10 months go by. Okay, I'm just blowing through money. And finally, I find a deal that makes sense. It's a 36 unit, $3.5 million deal in Phoenix. I needed to raise $1.4 million. Okay. Well, when I quit the job at the beginning of the year, my net worth and liquidity was like $300K. That was everything. Okay. I don't have like
10 months later.
I don't have a rich uncle or anything.
Yeah, right. Me neither.
10 months later.
But if you're out there, call us.
That's
Look
right.
us up,
Yeah, exactly.
please.
Yeah. We're accepting donations, right? Investments. But yeah, no, so I didn't have any like backer by any means. And so I knew I needed like a balance sheet guy to help sign on the loans. And so I started going to conferences. And so I met my first partner, Robert, at a conference. It was like July of 2018 in Dallas. And Robert, his wife's a physician. They own a couple of real estate properties. So their net worth was maybe a few $1 million at the time, right? Which seemed like a ton to me.
Which was all the money in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, wow, you are rich. And so I was like, okay, you're and he had a construction background. So Robert is kind of like the balance sheet construction guy. Because I kind of viewed myself as the more I learned about this, just is like, I listened to all these other people that said, oh, I should have gone to multifamily and bought apartments before I bought 10 houses. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I need to go directly to that. And they say it's a team sport, et cetera, all the cliches. So I was kind of viewing myself as kind of a GM or a general manager of a team. I got to put the pieces in place. And what are my strengths and how can I complement my weaknesses with the right partners? And so anyways, I meet Robert. We tie up this 36-unit deal. We each put up $25K non-refundable earnest money. And we had to raise $1.4 million. So I start going to all these people I met at all these conferences the past several months that said, yeah, let me know when you get a deal. I want to invest. And person after person says, oh yeah, sorry, timing's not good. Or yeah, wait till you do a couple more deals. So I'm like freaking out because I had burned through, I'm now at 165K because I was spending money on mentorship programs. Like I was investing in this. I have 165K left. I have 25K non-refundable in the earnest money, and we had to bootstrap this thing. And so I told Robert, I was like, hey man, I need to be able to go to people and pitch the fact that I'm all in. So I'm going to put 160K in of my 165. How much can you put in? He's like, oh shit. Well, okay, we can do 275. Okay. I meet Bikram at a conference while we're in escrow.
Who's your third partner?
He's our third partner. He becomes our CFO and third partner. I talk him into putting in 150 because he was trying to get into multifamily as well. And then by the grace of God, I get a random call one day. Like we're up against it. Like we're gonna lose our earnest money. Like we're not gonna close. We can't raise the money. I get a call from a lady who says, hey, I met you at a conference a couple months ago. I heard you have a deal. I just sold a 12-unit deal in Seattle, your hometown.
Oh, you're kidding.
And I need a 1031 exchange. Do you have a deal? And I was like, I sure do. And that was like 650K. So bottom line, we bootstrapped this thing. It was a 4-month escrow. It was very grueling, very stressful, but we bootstrapped it. We got the 1.4, and we closed that in February of 19. So it was 14 months when I quit the job to actually closing the first deal. Okay, and then we started getting momentum.
So 14 months from when you quit to when you closed your first deal.
Got the first deal. Yep. And I had no more money. Okay, so basically...
You had $5,000.
I had $5,000, yeah, which goes quick.
Top ramen and chicken nuggets.
That's right.
Here we go.
Yeah, exactly. So it was December. So we closed that in February of 19. December of 18, a couple months before we closed, my plan was to scale. And I knew I needed more cash for earnest money to tie up new properties. And so I told my then girlfriend, Grace, my now wife, I had bought my first house a few years prior. I was never going to sell that house. It was sentimental. I was going to rent it out, whatever. I told Grace, I was like, babe, I got to sell this house because I got equity in it and I need money to go tie up more deals. So I put it on the market. And a couple of weeks after we bought that first deal, it sold. So I had like 120K come back, no taxes. I owned it for like 3 years. And the week after it sold, I wired $100,000 non-refundable earnest money into a portfolio of 2 more apartment buildings. So we tied it up. and we bootstrapped it. So anyways, 2019, we bought 4 deals. I think it was like 35 million. By September of 19, we bought 4 deals.
So you go from your first deal of 3.6 to the following year, you bought 35 million.
$35 million worth of deals, which would sound like I own $35 million of real estate. You think I'm rich. I was dead broke because I put all my money into the deals.
Sure.
And then the cash flow all goes to the investors. So September of 18, about 18, 20 months into this little journey, I was broke. I had $12,000 of credit card debt. Grace
You
was
had
paying
$35 million worth of real estate as a holding company, as you and your partners.
Correct.
And we're still like, hey, it's coming. We're all in.
We're all in, yeah. And so, but I had to go back and get a job because I was broke. And so Grace was paying our bills. So like Grace believed in this vision.
She's still your girlfriend at this time?
Yeah. Well, I think we got engaged.
You had to
we got
marry
engaged
her.
like the next month. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I was like, I better lock her in.
He's a great salesman. Can you imagine selling your future wife's dad like, hey, I know I quit my job and I'm unemployed.
Yeah.
I'm borrowing money from your daughter. But
That's
dude,
right.
just trust me, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, so if you ever meet that guy, you got to give him a shot, Jamie, for your daughter, right?
Okay.
Yeah, keep an open mind, okay?
Not a chance.
Yeah,
Dude.
he could.
Not a chance.
He could blow
But
up. Yeah. So anyway, so September of 19, I had a non-compete that ended with hospice, and I needed money. And
so you went back into the hospice.
I went back
business.
into hospice. I had
so you're managing a small portfolio, but then went back into hospice just to keep the lights on.
Exactly.
Okay.
I got a job as like the president and co-owner of a hospice organization, and so I went and did that full time. 50 hours a week, and we were running the real estate company. By the way, Bikram, he was still living in California and was doing all this remotely. So we would have like literally 3 to 4 hour Zoom calls Monday through Thursday every night.
Wow.
Running our company, doing distributions, asset management, looking for new deals, et cetera. So bottom line, I have to go back into hospice. COVID hits in 2020. Yeah. And so we only buy 2 deals. It was really slow. Okay. So I made no money in this whole thing the first 3 years. 2018, 2019, 2020, I made no money. By the end of 2020, we start to catch our stride because we started to sell our first deals.
Pause though. So you're in this thing 3 years.
Yep.
You were all in.
Yep. Literally.
But literally, I mean, selling your house, getting 120,000, turn around,
all my net worth,
wiring it back. I mean, all in. So number one, it's got to make your investors feel great. It's got to make your wife feel wonderful and scared to death at the same time.
Right.
The reality is that most people would have quit. Right. There's that thing it is that you ask, successful entrepreneurs or founders otherwise, like if you would have known what it was going to take to get here, would you have still started?
Right.
And so if you would have, that 3 years, if you would have started at that first conference, quitting your job, going, not a big deal, I'm going to knock this thing out. 14 months later, hadn't got a deal. Now you're all in. 3 years later, you're managing this. You've got, upside potential, but you've also got a shitload of liability that's on your shoulders. You're not making any money.
Right.
Was there some point there that you were like, dude, what am I doing? Or that was never it? It's like plow through when you're going.
All the time.
Yeah.
I think mentally and emotionally, I actually had quit several times.
Yeah.
Like you have a bad day and you're like, screw this, man. Like I go online, start looking for healthcare jobs.
Right.
But then, and there were
every entrepreneur has done that. And if you say no, you're lying.
I know. Yeah. And there were a couple times where I actually did get like a little consulting gig or like a part-time
something.
But whenever I would go back and be a W-2, through that process, you really transform and you start to realize
I can never
go back because I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And even now, these days, when I feel like I'm stressed and I'm like driving by like a Starbucks or something and I see people sitting there and I'm like, they look so happy and stress-free. And then I realize I would hate to be them because you kind of you have to.
You do.
You almost need the chaos. It's like you feed off of it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so anyways.
My guess is you don't watch like a lot of TV. Like sitting down and watching 4 hours of Friends, you'd rather shoot yourself.
I can't. Yeah. I can't even watch. I'm a big NFL fan. I can't even watch a football game anymore. Like I'll track it on my phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I can't really go on vacations. It's like a curse. You know what I mean?
It's a curse.
Yeah. But
pray for Grace, by the way.
That's right. Yeah. Pray for Grace. Yeah.
Okay.
She understands by this point. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was tough, but you go through that transformation and you start to realize that, okay, I want to do something big, and everything I'm doing in the short term is just to feed into that.
Just to get there.
Just to get there.
So you said you started at the end of 2020, beginning to hit your stride. So when did you feel like, or when did you wake up, or what happened to where you're like, oh shit, this is going to work? Like, when did that happen?
Yeah, it's a good question. So near the end of 2020, we started to sell our first couple of deals.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, I'm getting flush with liquidity, right? So like we're like doubling the money, more than doubling the money. So I'm getting a bunch of liquidity because literally for 3 years, it's like survival.
Right.
Like space out my haircuts because they're expensive. Like cancel my Spotify membership. This is all stuff I actually did.
Right.
Like it's
seriously?
ridiculous. Yeah,
Okay.
it's like ridiculous. Like you're broke. And so when you start to get flush with the cash, you're like, okay, now we kind of have a proof of concept and we can keep going. At the same time, we started getting off-market deals from the local brokers because we had bought like 5 or 6 deals, kind of proved ourselves.
Sure.
Right. And we're getting a track record with investors. As we started to sell deals, we started getting flooded with investor referrals because investors are like, hey, you guys are doing a great job. I'm going to refer you to my colleague or my friends and family, whatever. Right. So it all starts to hit in stride.
Right. It's that success almost creates a gravity.
Correct.
Right. And then that gravity has a force of its own. It's almost the flywheel, right?
Yeah, it's the flywheel.
Totally.
It's like the rocket ship, they say, right?
Yep.
It takes all the energy to get off, but once it gets to a certain atmosphere, whatever altitude, it just kind of, that happened to us. So in the first 3 years, I think we bought 6 deals, like $65 million. I made $0. Bikron's living in California the entire time, right?
Okay.
At the end of 2020, Bikron, it was like December or January, he says, hey, I just quit my job. I'm going to move to Phoenix. I'm like, what? And I still had my job again, my second time around. And I was like, screw that, I'm going to quit my job then. So I quit my second time.
You're not going to quit your job if I don't quit my job.
I quit my job first.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So in February of 21, I quit the job the second time. I did it for like 18 months that time. We got an office in Phoenix in March, and we hired our first employee. Okay. So the first 3 years.
Who was the first employee?
It was Kaylee, who's now our president of operations.
She's still there.
So she was
awesome.
she's still here. So she's coming up on 4 years now.
Okay.
So basically, we bought 6 deals, $65 million in 3 years. In 2021 alone, 2020 calendar year, we bought 16 deals, $560 million.
Dude, hair on fire.
In 2022, we bought another 16 deals, $860 million. We bought like 1.3, 1.4 billion in 24 months. Yeah, because everything started to, we were basically selling deals, getting liquidity, all the profits that we got, we started to reinvest in the company because we could have easily said, okay, I've got my millions and I'm going to go
house
retire.
And a car and a boat.
Yeah, I'm going to go hang
else,
out.
Yeah.
No, we're like, we want to build something big
Yeah.
and dominant for the long term. So we were reinvesting all that money into infrastructure. We started our own property management company in 2021, our own construction management company. We started to hire out key positions because initially it was Bikron, Robert, and I, and then Bikron and I's wives that were doing everything.
Right.
So like 5 people that were doing acquisitions.
10 jobs. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So we knew literally every little nook and cranny of this company so that we can now start to hire people, recruit, hire, train these people. And in hindsight, when I had to go back to the hospice to be president and co-owner, I was super devastated because I felt like a failure. Yeah. And it was actually embarrassing because I had to go back into my industry and these people were all like, oh, really didn't work out.
Didn't work out, but look who's back.
We knew you'd be back. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can't like say, oh, no, I'm still running it. You're like, okay, whatever, screw you. But in hindsight, we grew that company from like 50 employees, went from like 3 to 4 million to like 9 million revenue, and we sold it to a private equity company. So I got a little chunk of cash there, but it gave me a ton of experience on how to lead people and how to build infrastructure.
Yeah.
I was able to then translate that over to our real estate
what you're
company.
doing with Rise. Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically, 2021, we kind of start taking off. We start the property management company. I tell people in this space, you haven't started a real company until you have your own property management company because it comes with all the pain in the butt stuff, right? Like HR, you have a lot more employees now. You have all kinds of stuff. So anyways,
and for
scaling.
you guys, one of the points it is that I really appreciated, and you and I've toured a bunch of your properties together, is that your property management company is not just necessarily financial management, but everybody it is that's on site as a Rise employee as well, from the people it is that are doing the leasing to the site maintenance to everything are all Rise guys. Exactly. So it was amazing going through several of your sites to when you and I were touring properties together with investors and otherwise it is that the office staff, that some of the tenants that were there, that the guy that's doing the maintenance in the pool and everything, everybody wanted to say hi to you and just appreciate you and just give you a high five or shake your hand or do anything. And that was a big light to me about the impact it is that you're having above and beyond what's going on from purely just kind of serving your investors and growing a big business.
Thanks for saying that, Jeremy.
Yeah.
That's a great point because you don't realize that until it starts to form that way, right? Like people talk about culture, right? Culture is a buzzword. What does it really mean? But it's really like, it's just people knowing you care, right? And they want to feel like they're part of a team, and they get excited when they know that the goal or the leader wants to grow.
Yeah.
Right. They get excited about that. So yeah, we have almost 300 full-time W-2 employees now. Awesome. And like you said, all the on-site employees are our staff. And so it just gives us full control of these assets to do a better job operationally and get better results for our investors. So yeah, we had a big year in 21, big year in 22. Interest rates skyrocket in 22. Right. And so we've been playing offense and defense. Like I've been playing
both at the same time.
I'm playing defense on deals that I bought near the end of 21, first half of 22 before interest rates spiked. But we also saw that as a big opportunity to expand our operations into new markets. Because up to this point, we had only been in Phoenix, right? Okay. So at the end of 22, interest rates are high, a lot of competition's on the sidelines, values are now compressed. We said, hey, a lot of investors are saying they want us to expand to different markets because they have so many investments in Phoenix. We're like, now's the time to expand to Dallas. Right. So we entered Dallas. Yep, and in 2023, we were the number one buyer of apartments in the country in Dallas. We expanded to North Carolina in 2024, and so now we're in
Charlotte and
Charlotte, Greensboro, in North Carolina.
That's right.
So we've got local staff in all those markets, local offices, and we really just were able to create like a rinse and repeat type of model to kind of just stamp out a blueprint for these things.
And there does seem to be, and that's what I was going to ask, is that there's a lot of guys in the real estate space. Right, good and bad. Right, just there's idiots and professionals in any kind of business, no matter what it is that you do. And there are folks that are the upstarts and up and comers. There's a couple of syndicators that have made a little bit of noise, good and bad. There's the Blackstones of the world, and Equity Residential, and these guys. I've never seen somebody that has kind of organically grown and developed such a following and a degree of impact. And kind of just a positive sentiment, not only with your investors and employees and otherwise. What for you do you think makes Rise different? Like, what is, is there like a secret recipe? Do you spray something on people when they come in the door? Is there, is there something there? What makes you guys different? What would you attribute this big growth and success to?
That's a good question. I mean, there's probably a lot of stuff that goes into it. It's hard to say. I think that initially, remember, I didn't have any contacts in real estate, right? It's like I don't have like local Phoenix real estate rich guy club.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Rich kid silver spoon that's treading off his daddy's balance sheet.
Exactly. Yeah. And so initially, we're like, how do we get the word out? And believe it or not, I am naturally like an introverted person. Like I don't like I don't like going to parties and conferences and stuff like that. But I realized, hey, we have to get attention. We have to get the word out. So my wife, Grace, she was really good with online marketing. Okay. So she started to really build our brand on social media. She started getting me on podcasts. We started a meetup in the very beginning.
Did you? Okay.
So like before we even had a deal, we started
an investor meetup.
Yeah, like a little investor meetup that you just put on like meetup.com and you blast it on Facebook and social media. We started one of those before we even had a deal because I couldn't find a good one. So it's like, let's just start one. And we grew that to over 200 people. Like I had an event with over 200 people show up. It was kind of crazy. So we started doing all these things.
I'm starting to think we may should have interviewed Grace. Anyways,
yeah, I know, right? I'm her representative. Yeah, I'm here on her behalf.
You're a booking agent.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, she wasn't available for this slot. Yeah, but so basically we started getting that exposure, and then you start getting on podcasts, speaking on conferences, and then she started to hire people that became her kind of like her proteges, and she kind of trained them on all these methods, and then they took it to the next level. They started investing in search engine optimization, Google ads, things like that. So we were able to start attracting investors, and then we wanted to just dominate every aspect of the business. Like we wanted to make sure we had really good investor reporting. A lot of these quote unquote syndication groups, maybe they can buy a deal, but they're not very good at actually operating them, right? Most of them are using third-party management companies, third-party staff. We're like, no, we want to be a true dynasty, like long term. You know what I mean? We want to be a big institution like Blackstone. So we need to have our own staff. We need to really have institutional level reporting. So we try to really do a great job on all these different things. And when you have quality, I think the word just spreads. Sure. You know what I mean? And so I think that's a big component of it is we can start to differentiate ourselves. Yeah. But I also think how we've responded the last 2.5 years to the interest rate crisis has also differentiated us between a lot of investors because we've never lost investor capital, never missed a loan payment on any deal. And a lot of our competition and a lot of our investors have lost money with our competition.
Yeah, this last year, like we've got a number of clients, but this last year, you've seen folks give stuff back, hand it back, walk away, hand the keys, and damn the investors, and we'll rebrand under something else a year from now, and tell some other story. You've heard that thing of the way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
Yep.
Kind of a thing. And that seems to be true for you, because if I reflect back on just the story it is that we've heard so far, your degree of just kind of commitment and discipline from, being a football player in a 4.0 to going to college to, working and putting yourself through school and staying out of debt and doing these kinds of things, there's a pattern here that's kind of a consistency of focus and discipline and just doing the right things consistently. And so when you think about that, it's no surprise that you and Rise are having the success that you're having. So
no, thank you. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, consistency and discipline is everything. And like, okay, for my bachelor's degree, just as a quick little anecdote, like I was not the smartest guy or like a high IQ, but I kind of like, I don't know, when I stopped playing football, it was kind of like an identity crisis then too. Yeah. And I was like, you know what, I'm not going to get another B. I'm not going to get a B in school. And so you just grind it out, and if I put the work and the discipline,
those
you
2
get
days
the
and all that time in the gym, I got to put to something else.
Exactly. Yeah. And so when you can translate that over, and then you start to translate, then it just teaches you how to be disciplined, right? And then you can translate that to business, and you just don't stop. You just keep going. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, again, it honestly feels like it's been 15 years. Like if you say 6 years, it's kind of crazy because so much has changed, and I've changed. You know what I mean? And you grow and learn. But yeah, it's exciting, and you got to go through adversity. Good
for you. So, where do you see Rise the next 3 or 4 or 5 years? Like, what are you most excited about that you're doing, and where is your focus, and where are we going to see this next 3 or 4 or 5 years in you and the team?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I honestly don't have like concrete drawn out goals in the next 3 to 5 years. I probably should, but our goal is to be the largest and greatest real estate company of all time. And I know that can maybe sound cheesy to some people, but we're dead serious. So like everything we are doing is to try to get significantly larger and to dominate our competition, be the best investment firm for our investors so they have transparency, they trust us. And so we don't think that we've accomplished anything yet, honestly. So we feel like, when we started out, you're in different tiers, right? We feel like we're in a different tier now. Like a lot of people that were our competition, we don't really look at it that way, but we're not even close to a level that we need to be. And so we're looking at, okay, how can we grow the company? And there's so many dimensions to it. It's like we have to raise more money. So how do we diversify our equity sources in order to scale? When we scale, how do we staff and operate these things effectively? You know what I mean? Like I just implemented something called Culture Index into our company, which is basically like a program to help not only recruit and hire people based on their psychological profiles, but it's also for like your internal management because we need better processes there. So I'm trying to hire key people operationally so that I can get freed up, to do bigger things and grow the company. We've expanded to more markets. That's been exciting because after a while, you buy deal after deal in Phoenix, you dominate your market. It starts to be the same thing. But when you go to a new market, that's exciting and challenging. So we want to grow significantly. And we're trying to figure out how is the best way to do that. And again, in the short term, it's challenging with interest rates. A lot of the big equity groups are on the sidelines. We've still been very active, but we need to figure out a way to kind of diversify our equity sources and to scale. Yeah,
I think it's you're familiar with Maslow's peak to peak, right? Yeah. You get to this peak and then you can see the next peak and the next, right? And so, the same thing can be said about, when they talk about driving cross country, right? Your headlights give you about 200 yards, and I don't know what's, 10 miles ahead of me. I know it's 200 yards ahead of me. So I'm going to drive and then I'm going to adjust and just get hopefully better and smarter over time. So the Zach and the Rise today is different than it was 2 years ago.
Right.
Monumentally. Right. If you, in 2 year period of time, you said bought 1.3 in assets, like that's outrageous. Yeah. So the Rise in 2026 or 2028 could be monumentally different. But
100%.
You seem like it is that you're excited and looking forward to what Rise is going to be tomorrow and next year.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think that, this is my own personal philosophy is that if we have a goal and we achieve it and we don't have a new goal, then we're just going to become unfulfilled. Yeah. Right. So I'd rather set a goal, so big that it seems unobtainable so that I'm constantly pursuing it. And that is, it sounds cliche, like the whole, it's about the journey, not the destination, whatever. But that is true.
I think that's a bumper sticker.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a bumper sticker. Yeah, I think it's on my car. Yeah, you saw that in the parking lot. Yeah. I invented that. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's like if you get there, you need to have a new goal.
Yeah, right.
Right. And so that really is the exciting part is to keep scaling. Sure. And honestly, it's like, going through all the scary stuff and the adversity, the day to day, I mean, that is what's also fulfilling as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I really don't want to do this. And then you end up doing it. And then you're like, wow, that wasn't bad. I feel really good. What's the next one?
You know start what I mean? When you witness yourself overcoming challenges, you realize actually how tough you are.
Yeah.
But you don't witness that till you're on the other side of it.
Yeah, well said.
I mean, it's you know, while you're going through hell, you're like, dude, I'm going through hell.
Yeah.
Right? But it's also like, well, dude, if you're going through hell, don't just sit there. Right?
Yeah.
Like, go, dude,
no, yeah,
go through it.
No,
like,
you're right. And you mentioned something earlier, Jeremy.
Oh.
You said that how you do one thing's how you do anything.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know who started that, but I know that Dan Sullivan quotes that. He writes a bunch of books, and
Sure.
I joined his program.
Oh, did you?
Earlier this year?
Okay.
Yeah, his executive coaching program. So I read a lot of his books. I was listening to one this morning at the gym, and he basically talks about how with entrepreneurship, you basically have to commit first, and then you have to go through a period of courage. And courage is scary. People always think courage is like some hero. Courage, they might look courageous, but they are terrified. But they do it in spite of that.
Yeah.
They still just push through the fear. And I do this like almost every week now. It's like monthly. There's always something that comes up. It's like, man, I don't want to do this, or I have to do this presentation or have this conversation, whatever. You push through that. When you push through that, then you gain confidence and capability, which
makes you feel more confident for next week.
For the next bigger challenge. Yeah. And you have to keep building on that.
Yeah.
But if we stop, then we don't keep growing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so,
but if you stop doing that, then I'm that fat guy at Starbucks with, New Balance and dress socks, that's just sitting there having his coffee.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no way.
And some of us, I mean, not everybody's like this, and you don't need to be, but like I'm the guy that sometimes I feel like there's a problem with me. It's like if I go on a vacation, by like day 2 or 3, I'm like itching. I'm like, I'm not progressing. I am not happy, truly. Like I feel unhappy here. Like I want to be doing something.
I think Grace should actually, I think my wife is starting a support group for people like this.
Okay, yeah, that's
right?
good. Yeah,
so I'll make sure that Grace has her
contact.
contact.
Send us the
But
Evite.
It's been like that we've been married almost 30 years, and it's been like that, is that you have to force yourself to take downtime, and in downtime,
it's important.
You don't necessarily, it's important, but it's also like, well, I'm not happy. I don't want to sit here and watch 3 movies back to back or do this.
Doses.
Like, it's got to be small doses. It's that little rhythms and margins aspect of things.
Yeah.
So I think, one of the things that is for entrepreneurs and for founders and for leaders, and candidly, especially men, is you feel like it is that you have this kind of the world on your shoulders from your business and your employees, your wife, your kids, your family, or otherwise, and that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
What are you doing it is to make sure it is that you are keeping focused and keeping sane? What do you have a practice or an exercise or something like that? It is that just kind of keeps your head on straight.
No, it's a great question. So, I've always been pretty consistent with like drinking water, eating clean, things like that. But the last 2 or 3 years, I've taken it all to a new level.
Really? Okay.
Because I need to be more. I've realized I have to be more consistent and disciplined with my daily regimen and habits in order to deal with stress and not let it overcome me. And I can tell you that like when interest rates started to really escalate and it was really challenging, like especially end of 23, beginning of 24, I was just getting into bad habits where I would literally stay at the office till like 10 o'clock every night. Right. And then I'd come home and do emails, and I'd be up till like 11 or 1. And then you wake up at like 6 or 7 and I was sleep deprived, and I was like, I don't need sleep. And it was unhealthy. Yeah. Like it was starting to take a toll on me.
Sure.
We had our first baby in April of 2024, and I kind of realized like, okay, I need to change this up, like my schedule. And when I first started in this whole journey, like in 2018, I read Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and I was kind of following that. Right. And I kind of got away from it, honestly. But I went back on that in 2024. Miracle Morning is basically where you wake up early, you hydrate, you like pray, meditate, whatever you want to call it, journal, things like that. And I started working out in the mornings. And I drink like 2 gallons of water a day. I literally only drink water and espresso. Like I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke anything. Okay. And this is just what I like to do to be super consistent. Right. So I have good energy.
Again, nobody's perfect.
Yeah, nobody's perfect. Yeah, that's right.
It's not medical advice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, disregard this photo. Right. Yeah. Right. We're not judging you. That's apple juice, anyways. I think. That's yeah. So, So I just kind of stay on point with that because it just keeps me feeling good. It keeps me high energy. And then even more recently, like a few weeks ago, like it was around Christmas, I was like, I need a new audio book. Right. And like this book called The Wim Hof Method came up. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Haven't read it.
And I am a conservative Christian. I'm not like a hippie type of guy, right? But I listened to this book, and I started trying it. It's basically like a breathing exercise in the morning, and then you take cold showers. I've been doing that for like 3 straight weeks, and I feel great.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to keep doing it.
Are you cold plunging yet?
I'm not cold plunging. And I think it's that I don't have the time, honestly.
Well, dude, Arizona desert, you don't need a cold plunge. Get in your pool because it's my pool's like 46 degrees. It's cold enough.
There you go. Yeah, I should try that. But I've been doing that. I've been doing this breathing exercise in the morning in addition to my other regimen and doing the cold shower. And I just feel better. I make sure I get 8 hours of sleep now. Okay. I mean, usually like 7, 8 hours. So like, there's just these disciplines. Like, it sounds cliche, but most people don't do it. Like, get the sleep, hydrate,
you start to realize,
exercise.
It's even as simple as if I put good food in my body feels better.
Exactly.
Right? Like I want to put better gas in my car because my car performs better. So why would you not put better food, better habits from sleep to personal disciplines to praying, journaling, otherwise
100%.
getting right? Then the output inevitably is going to be better. It has to.
100%.
Yeah.
And what I've realized too, Jeremy, is the bigger the company gets, there is more pressure that mounts on the CEO or the entrepreneur, because now like we do all staff meetings. I got like 200 plus people looking at me, and and you can't crack. Like you got to say stuff. You got to say the right stuff. Sure. You know what I mean? And I'm doing webinars almost weekly to investors, and so you have to look healthy, not only feel healthy. You have to look good and like you have it under control. Right. And so you got to make sure that you're in a good spot. And so I mean, it's just staying consistent on those regimens. So
you had talked about you had. I love the fact that even when you technically maybe didn't have the money, you were investing in yourself. You were going to taking the money it is that you had. And I was going to seminars. I was going here to learn. I was going to a book. I was joining a mastermind. I was doing all these kind of things to, in my mind, I call it mental push-ups, right? Yeah. Like I'm trying to do these things it is to make my myself more learned, to make my brain smarter, to make my, my mind and my focus and everything better.
Yep.
What are you now? You did this Dan Sullivan group. You were in YPO for a while, or still
YPO
are.
now. Yeah, still am. Yeah.
What other groups, I guess, have you done? Where do you see value? What does that do for you as you're, I guess, kind of growing and leading and trying to, keep your neck up game strong?
No, it's a good question. So I started this in 2018, right? When I was like the first few months, I was actively trying to find people to learn from. Like I was going to meetups and stuff, but they were mostly garbage. Like I wasn't, they were just no quality, like house flippers, wholesalers, not what I was trying to do. And so then I started going to conferences. I can't remember the name of it, but I joined a mentorship program. Remember, I'm just burning through cash, and I dropped $30,000 on a program.
Wow, on a program.
On like joining like a mentorship program for multifamily investing. Like I went to like a 2-day conference where they do the sales pitch. And I remember sitting in my hotel room in Dallas, and I for hours, I was like trying to Google, is this a scam? Right. And I was like, should I do this? And
it's
I was like,
finger on the button going, should I? Oh my God, what am I doing? Yeah.
And my whole thing was like, you know what? I'm looking at this as I'm buying a network. Okay. Like I'm buying a network because if other people drop 30K, that's a barrier to entry, and maybe they're serious. And I met Bikram and Robert through that.
Oh, you're kidding.
They were part of this program. So like there were other people that I had met at the conference. So like, yeah, I joined. It is getting, it is valuable. I'm getting successful.
So it's not it's the information and what it is that you're learning there, but it's also the association, because everybody there is just as committed as you are.
Exactly. Yeah. Correct. And so when I started going to these conferences, because remember, I was trying to find people focused on multifamily investing. I couldn't find anybody. When I started going to conferences that are focused on that, I'm like, wow, I'm now in a room with people that are speaking the same language as me. How can I do that more? So I joined a group called, Young Presidents Organization, where you have to have like certain thresholds. It's like over 20 grand a year. But I realized if I just meet one person, it could be worth it. Take it to the next level. You know what I mean? And I honestly don't like going to conferences. I don't like small talk and all that BS, but I go because one introduction, one relationship can make a difference. Yeah.
Can change your whole business.
I joined the Dan Sullivan. I started listening to those Dan Sullivan books, like Who Not How. People probably heard of that. So I started listening to his books. I'm like, I really like this messaging. And then he talks about he has this coaching program. So I joined the coaching program. I went to 2 workshops, and I told the lady, this is way too entry level. Like I want to be at your highest tier. This is not. I'm not getting value. And they're like, well, you have to be in it for 3 years. I said, well, this is my company. This is it.
Fast forward.
And they said, okay, we're going to fast track you and expedite you. So they get you into the next step of it or whatever, to just be around higher caliber people. Sure. So you have to put yourself in environments with higher caliber people that are doing what you want to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, everybody knows that, but so, I mean, those are the only 2 things I can think of right now. I mean, there's some other stuff I'm looking into.
But no, I mean, I think, so we're moving into this world to where it is, and something I wasn't planning on pulling into, but we're moving into this world to where it seems like a lot of people are actually questioning the value of university education.
Right. Yeah.
They're not questioning education. They're questioning the value. Does it make sense for me to go get an undergrad for $100,000 a year on something I may or may not use 4 years from now or otherwise? Or I don't want to spend, $100,000 on a communications degree to go work for Starbucks.
Seriously.
And so, but when I look at alternatives, you look at, I know Google started like a Google U, right? That if you go complete all these certification courses, Google will guarantee you a job somewhere.
There you go.
There's like what you're talking about with these mentorship groups and otherwise, to where you can go and dive in for people that are either looking to get into real estate investing, or they want to look into entrepreneurship, or they want to start some other path. How important is that to invest in those deals, whether it's a $200 online course or $15,000 to join this, just to learn and be around that?
It's super critical, right? Yeah. And I can argue both sides. Like, I'm somebody that went to undergrad, I went to grad school, and I paid for it out of pocket. So I know like the grind, because I had to work a lot of hours to pay that off. Yeah. I do think education is worth it, but I also think you got to be careful, right? Like I have a family member that spent over 6 figures on getting a degree that they're not using. You know what I mean? It's just a waste of money, in my opinion, right? And so, but to answer your question, if you are serious about whatever type of business venture or niche you're trying to get into, joining a program that's specialized or education can collapse a time frame. Yeah. Because that's what happened to me. Is I was getting frustrated that I'm spending several months burning through my savings trying to figure out not only the content, but meet the people to get me to the next level. Yeah. And I was like, if I drop $30K in this program, I could meet the people and just expedite this entire thing.
Well, and candidly, you did.
And I did. And that helped, right? Yeah. And so, and even like, I just told my partner Bikram the other day, I said, for us to get to the next level, it's not going to happen with me sitting in the office. I need to go out into the world and go meet people. I need to go out into these conferences and find new partners and stuff like that. You have to go out and really search these things out. So I tell people, like, even if you're like, oh, I don't like going to conferences or joining groups, it doesn't matter. Like, if you push your comfort zone.
You don't have to like it.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You have to look at it as this is your job. Like, you have to push your comfort zone and put yourself out there. God or the universe, whatever you believe, will reward you. Yeah, is the way I look at it. Agreed. So you have to just show up a lot of time.
Yeah, and I think that it's valuable what you said. Sometimes you just got to show up.
Yeah.
Right, and you taking that. I mean, you think about what it is that we're talking about. Really, you're investing in yourself.
Yep.
Right, you're investing in yourself, and whether it is that you believe in yourself. You've isolated. I want to learn everything about multifamily, and because in order for me to do that, who do I need to become? Who do I need to be around? Where do I need to be? Who do I need to know? What do I need to learn in order to create this of what it is that you've created? Investing in those programs has, for you, availed Robert and Bikram, and a business now it is that, we think about this is, across the country that employs almost 300 people. So that's 300 other families it is that you're impacting their lives and their kids' lives.
Right.
Several thousands of investors it is that have invested with you. I would say the conference is worth it. I don't know what the conference was, but we probably shouldn't tell them, or they're going to
they'll increase the price.
They're going to increase the price for sure.
No, but to your point, I'll just give another little book recommendation. I listen to this book all the time. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, right? Sure. And it's the whole thing is about the concept of your self-image, right? And anybody, you should read this book. It's an old book, right? But it's
been around 30 years at least. Probably.
It's tested over time. I think it was even 1940s, 1930s or something.
Oh my goodness!
And so, but basically, it's all about your self-image and how your brain works. And so, if you can, a lot of people think that they are imposters, right? Like I felt like that. Like I don't deserve to be. I'm not a real estate guy because I had no background, I didn't know anybody. But when you start to go to these events or you start to educate yourself this way, you will change your self-image so that you do feel like you're worth it. And then you will start to, you have to perceive yourself as being worthy of the role that you want to achieve and the goals that you want to achieve. And when you do, then you'll start to achieve it. And then all the external people will start to perceive you that way as well. So I think that's important.
And candidly, that probably applies to everything.
Yeah, it's life in general. It's life in general.
It's life in general.
Yeah.
So, Psycho-Cybernetics. There's our plug.
Yeah.
First, this is exactly what I thought it would be, which would be a wonderful conversation.
No, thank you.
And so I appreciate you, and I'm super excited about what you guys are doing at Rise. You have time for a couple of fun questions.
100%, yeah. For
Right
you,
on,
I have
man.
all the time in the world, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there a funny story or two about this kind of journey along Rise, like a wild investor, a crazy tenant, something it is along the way?
Sure.
That when you and Bicken or Robert are talking, go, oh my God, do you remember so-and-so? Do you remember whatever? Is there something goofy, funny you remember?
Yeah, we have some crazy stories. I mean, okay, so there's one deal that we bought, and it was basically, I think it was the night we bought it, and we knew it was kind of a rough location. We got a really good basis, really good deal on it. And I mean, it's not really funny, but it is crazy, is that there was a tenant and her boyfriend smoking meth in this unit, and they got into a fight. So she stabbed him multiple times and set him on fire. And he actually survived, but it burned like 3 units. So that's some of the crazy stuff.
Oh, my gosh.
And we don't buy like ghetto properties. This is like one of the rougher ones.
Right.
But sometime, like, this deal was owned by like a European family for like over 20 years.
Okay.
You know? So like some of this stuff is kind of crazy. You know what I
That's
mean? Some of
wild.
these properties, yeah.
Are those two people still tenants?
No,
No, they're not.
They were
Okay.
promptly evicted.
They were fair enough. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, and then there's just a lot of stuff as you're growing. Like, for example, most people don't realize we actually were initially called Summit Equity.
Okay.
And we started buying deals under Summit Equity, and that was what all our branding was online, social media. And then one day we get a cease and desist letter from another company that says, "Hey, we are Summit Equity, and we're getting investors reaching out to us thinking that we are you. We have a federal trademark. We'll sue you if you don't change your name." I was like, screw these guys. And we called the trademark attorney. He looked at me. He's like, yeah, they will sue you and win. So we had to change our name.
Oops.
Yeah, exactly. So we're like, crap, we need to change our name and get a trademark. And so we had just named one of our properties Rise on McDowell, which was the name of the road. And it was actually my wife's idea, Grace. She's like, why don't you call it Rise Equity? And then the trademark attorney's like, it's not unique enough to get a trademark.
Okay.
You have to add something to the Rise. And so Grace said, well, how about 48? Because Arizona is the 48th state. It's kind of like a saying here,
Sure.
you know, state 48.
Yep.
So we're Rise 48 with no space, grammatically incorrect, so that we could be kind of unique and get the federal trademark.
Okay.
A couple years later, there was a new group that came up called Rise Invest, started buying deals. I called our trademark attorney and said, nail these guys.
Now you're the
we
guy.
Nah,
we're not putting up with that, buddy.
We sent them a cease and desist, and they changed their name.
Oh, how
So it
things
kind of came
change.
full circle. Yeah,
Came
so
full circle.
That's right. Yeah.
Right
So
on.
get trademarks
Get
if you have a
trademark.
good name, and it's hard to find a name that's not already trademarked.
Okay.
It's crazy. Yeah.
All right. Do you have a favorite movie or a character that you identify with, and why?
It's a good question.
Obviously, for me, it's James Bond, but
Yeah, that makes sense.
That
Yeah.
kind of goes without
Yeah.
question. So
That
Yeah.
totally makes sense. So there's a movie that I'll watch every now and then when I'm feeling like adversity and I need to and it's 300, like the Spartans. You know what I mean?
this is Sparta.
The
Baby.
whole this is Sparta. Yeah,
Okay.
that movie can inspire me.
I like it.
So yeah, so I like that warrior mindset.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's what you have to do. Is like you're
Okay.
facing a lot of adversity, a lot of critics or haters. And
Yeah.
you just gotta overcome it.
You got to
So,
overcome it. Is that how you see yourself when you look in the mirror?
That's exactly right. Yeah,
Again,
that's
I
right.
get
That's
it.
how I see myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 more. Best piece of advice that you've ever given, or a best piece of advice that you like to share with people?
Yeah. So this is what I tell people. Like, now I'm fortunate to have like younger guys or even older guys come to me and say, hey, can you give me some advice on how I can do what you did or got into it? And I tell people, it's kind of what we talked about earlier. I tell them, don't let anybody tell you can't do it.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to put the work in to achieve your goals. And so don't take crap for anybody is basically my advice. So if you have a goal, you have to just relentlessly attack that goal.
Right.
Right. And you will, through that process, you will transform. It's kind of like me against the world type of mindset. You'll get a chip on your shoulder.
Sure.
And you'll find the people that are actually in your corner, and you'll know just instinctually. I mean, I've had people that were like my quote unquote mentors. I thought they'd been mentors. And when I start telling my goals, start achieving things, you can tell that they get jealous or feel like competitive somehow.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, I don't need you.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think you have to be careful about who you take advice from, and don't let people tell you
That's
can't.
it right there.
Yeah.
Be careful who you take advice from.
Yeah.
Okay, last one.
Yep.
What's on your Spotify list right now?
I don't even have a Spotify. So I have not listened to music in 8 or 9 months. No BS.
Spotify also has podcasts like like the Jeremy B. Hill Show.
That's true. I should be listening to that. If I did, it'd be number one.
It would be.
Literally, all I listen to for almost a year now are audiobooks. That's all I consume.
Good for you.
I don't listen to any music at all.
Okay.
Only audiobooks when I'm working out.
So every day when I see you in the gym, it's audiobook.
Every single time.
Okay.
And a lot of it is honestly the same ones I listen to over and over.
And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier of just mental push-ups. It's really protecting that space, shoulders and above.
Exactly. Because when I find a good book, I'm not the kind of guy that likes to get through books to do volume. I don't want to read like 60 books in a year. Like people brag about that. I want to just, if I find a good book, I will listen to it over and over so that I absorb it. Yeah. Or if there's certain chapters, I bookmark it in Audible. Right. I will go back to it. Yeah. Like if I'm like nervous or I have anxiety in the morning about something I have to do that day, I will go to a certain book and listen to a certain section to get my mind right for that.
Good for you.
I do that in the gym too.
Love that.
So I'm just trying to constantly consume that. Yeah. Because I used to listen to like rap music and all that garbage.
I see you as kind of a Tupac kind of guy.
Yeah, I used to be, But it's just not good for your psyche. Yeah. And you got to be careful. So like, for example, we have a pretty big LinkedIn profile and I've never had an Instagram. I actually do not fundamentally believe in social media because I think it's bad for your psychological health, like fear of missing out, all that stuff. Right. But it's absolutely necessary and a weapon to use as a company. You need to use it to get exposure. And we do it a lot. But we have a marketing team now that runs my LinkedIn, and I have not even been on LinkedIn since Labor Day weekend. Like we're recording this beginning of January, so it's been over 4 months because I saw on Labor Day weekend I had some time off. I was just constantly mindlessly scrolling, and I find myself started to I'm caring too much about what other people are doing. Right. I'm like, I just want to be laser focused. On what you're doing. I took it off my phone. Yeah. I have not even been on there. And our team posts through my, people think I'm posting like almost daily, but it's not me. Right. Like our team is doing it. So that's just what I do personally is just, I want to keep everything simple. I have 2 pages of apps on my phone. Like I have almost all notifications off. I just want to be always kind of simple, vanilla, laser focused on what I do. Well,
dude, with that kind of attitude, there's no doubt, or there's no question on why it is that you're having the success it is that you have and why Rise will continue.
No, thank you.
So
appreciate it.
If people want to learn more about you or connect with you or learn more about Rise, where do they find you?
Yeah, thank you. You can go to our website, rise48equity.com. You can set up a call with our team if you want to learn about how you can participate and look forward to talking to people.
My man, thank you so much. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy.
Appreciate it, y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening today. This has been the Jeremy B. Hill Show. If you liked today's episode, go on and give us a 5-star review. Not 4, but 5. And even more importantly, share it with somebody else. This is Jeremy B. Hill. Your success is waiting for you, but it's not going to wait forever. Go get it.